Today we are for Alistair Hogg in Scotland. It's a very good fancier and very good player for one loft races. And first question, Alistair, it's how did you start adventure with your pigeon?
I started the pigeons when I was 5 years old. I'm currently 52 years of age. I had it from the local pet shop, and from there it migrated basically into when my brother also had some pigeons from a local friend, and he lost interest in the pigeons and I took them over when I was 12 years old. I joined the local pigeon club in 1976, and I'm in the present club that I joined at the very beginning also still.
Alistair, can you tell us how it's racing going in Scotland and UK?
Yeah, no problem. Primarily I race domestic racing in the local club, which is about 2 kilometres from the house. There is approximately 14 members in the club, and we basket approximately between 200 and 300 pigeons per week. That may go up somewhat when the young bird season is on. At federation level, the clubs are made up of approximately 12 clubs into the federation in the central parts of Scotland here. We fly from the south of England back here into the north, into the central parts of Scotland. The racing distance that we fly is from 50 miles to 350 miles right down to the coast, and thereafter we fly over the English Channel and we fly into France. That is generally the racing programme that we have at this time.
We know it's Scotland and all UK. It's not very good weather. It's most time it's rain, big wind. What line pigeon you breed? It's a fast pigeon or need be strong pigeon for this weather?
Yeah, I think like most things when pigeon fanciers start off in whichever locality they're in, first and foremost they must find a pigeon that suits their lifestyle, their management system, and indeed their racing system as well. When they get success in those particular avenues, the pigeons that you must have must adapt first and foremost for you. So the pigeons that I'm looking for in actual fact are pigeons that are equally fast, but they also have stamina as well, because in the climate that we have it is very variable winds. The winds can come from the north, equally they can come from the west as well. Sometimes it's cold, and in any one day we can have in varying degrees of weather where it can be very sunny one minute and then we can have rain the next. So the pigeons must be able to adapt. So primarily the pigeons that I fly are from my old family, which is predominantly hogg based pigeons. I have cultivated them over the years into a very successful family domestically, of which also other fanciers have flown them and won at national level, and then I use them internationally in the one loft races.
Alistair, we know you fly club racing. When and why you start give pigeon for one loft race?
Okay, basically what it was the pigeons that I was racing at the time, I had a very high level of success, and at that point I'd won 14 first provincial races at that particular time. I was obviously very satisfied with the results, and I remember I got the monthly magazine in the local newsagent, and I was reading up about this new concept of one loft racing. At that point I was looking for new horizons and new challenges for my pigeons, and I decided to enter into what would be my very first one loft race, which in this case was the $1 Million Pigeon Race. This was in the season 1996 to 1997. I was very fortunate in that race, and being my very first one, I was in the final event. I was first UK, first European and 10th international in the race. Subsequently from then, I wanted to then test the pigeons or use that as a benchmark to send to further one loft races, just to see in actual fact how the pigeons would perform, because I think it's one thing when you know your own racing ability, but I think it's also when you have the complete package where the pigeons can perform when they leave the home loft unassisted from the original breeder. At this present time we are racing now in 9 different countries from Europe to Asia. with a very high level of success. It's still got the same pigeons at the base all the time. I never lose sight of the original pigeons, which, as I said before, was primarily the sort of the Hofkin stroke Jansen based pigeons. But really, I suppose you could call them, one for a better word, that these are now my own pigeons, my own family of pigeons. I also look every year to try and improve the success where possible. And in the winter months, I'm also looking to maybe bring maybe 1, 2 or maybe 3 top pigeons in to try against my own pigeons for the following season, to test them, to see in actual fact if we can bring out the better qualities either in those pigeons into my own, or my own pigeons into theirs.
Alistair, tell us, what do you do before you send pigeon for one loft races?
Okay, basically what I do is before I send any pigeons to the one loft races, I set out in the winter months the races that I will be potentially interested in for the following season. I will couple the pigeons and I will do a bit of research against each race to see in actual fact the climatic conditions that these pigeons would normally be flown in when it comes to the preparation races and indeed the final events. I will then gauge that against my own pigeons that can fly in similar races that they've done in the past with the same conditions. So basically we pair the pigeons up in the normal fashion that would happen in anybody else's loft. We will separate the pigeons at approximately 23 to 25 days old. They will be separated into a section by themselves, of which then I will monitor the pigeons, and thereafter I will do my selection for each race in particular. With regards to medication, you're probably asking, is there anything I do? First and foremost, the pigeons are vaccinated at a very early age. This, I believe, in actual fact will boost and promote their immune system against paramyxo in particular, because as it's understandable, with all the pigeons that are being brought in from various countries into these races, we have to make sure that we can protect our pigeons from this particular disease that sometimes can happen in these one-off races. With regards to medication, totally, I don't really give my pigeons medication that are intended for the one-off races. It's very much a natural environment. The pigeons, when they're separated, I normally have them in a relatively closed-in environment where they cannot imprint the local surroundings where in actual fact they were born, because I don't want them to get too familiar with the outside of my loft. I want them only to be familiar with the outside of the loft that they are going to be in when they are entered into these one loft races. With regards to cocks or hens or which pigeons I will send, again that may come down to research in relation to how the race in question has went in seasons gone by, whether or not it's been a high ratio of cocks that have won the race, hens have won the race, or whatever. I try where possible to try and put a mixed selection of pigeons that I have into the one loft race, because you try and cover all climatic conditions that may face these pigeons in the races. But to go back to the original question, with regards to preparation, I think it's fair to say to you as well, especially with feeding these pigeons, I go for a standard breeding mixture. They do not get a lot of small seeds, because I believe in actual fact that the majority of these one loft races will not feed small seeds. They will feed more than likely high carbohydrates with a high protein balance to match that as well. With regards to pigeons as well, I watch the youngsters as they're eating. If I had, say, a potential youngster that I was contemplating on sending to a one loft race, and I noticed it used to take on a high percentage of food, I would eliminate that pigeon from my selection. The reason for that is very simple. Because they will not have ad lib to the feeding trough where the feeding is, the pigeons must be able to survive on the basic amount of fuel that they will require or feed. So that is one of the major factors. Another factor that I should say to everybody or the viewers here, in actual fact, all pigeons that are intended for the one loft races, the young bird section that they go in, the food is put directly on the floor. The section is not cleaned out for a maximum of 6 weeks, which would normally take into account all the pigeons that would be entered, however many races we're going to enter over that period. but the same droppings would be in the loft from the first young birds to the last young birds that are entered into the one loft race. Once I've concluded all my entries into the races, the section is completely cleaned, and then what happens thereafter is my own domestic youngsters that I intend to race within the club is then put into that section. That will just give you an insight in relation to how I do some basic preparations for the birds going to the one loft races.
A lot of fancier, it's a give injection when it's give for pigeon for one loft races. It's give injection for paramixo or another one just 1 week or 2 weeks before send pigeon for one loft race. You think that one it's a good, or for your mind it's no good?
For me, I believe in actual fact the injection for paramixo is probably the most important one. I don't inject my own pigeons for paratyphoid. I tried that 1 year and I actually got an outbreak of paratyphus in my pigeons. I then had to eliminate some pigeons because of the outbreak, because of the vaccine I was using, because it was a live vaccine. And thereafter I said from that point on I would not vaccinate for paratyphus in my own breeding stock.
Please tell us what is a most important result for you. It's a winners for club, for national winners, or one loft races.
Yeah. I think when we talk about performances, I think everybody can remember one of their very first memorable performances. I have to say, at the time or the period when I was racing in my parents' house in the 1990s, I had a particularly good racing season, which was 1997. Sorry, I beg your pardon, 1993 was an exceptionally good season, but 1997 was a memorable one. At that time there, I was winning races from all distances, from the start of the racing programme to the end of the racing programme. There was a particularly good cock that I had there that was racing. He had 5 times the first prize and he won the federation at 225 miles in an east wind when he should never have been in the result at all. Ironically, with this particular pigeon, he won the federation by 75 yards clear of the entire convoy. The next year I entered a youngster from him into the $1 million race, and it was 35th place in the final event at the end of the race. That was a very memorable performance, it has to be said. But when we talk about the international races, currently altogether I have 375 international performances for myself in these races. We have equally good reports from the pigeons this year for other fanciers. We have first provincial winners in Ireland. We have a first prize in Croatia. We have a first prize national in Bulgaria. This year, 2015, has been an exceptional year. We are flying in 9 different one loft races this year, and I hope that we have good performances.
How many one loft races you already win? How many for you have for 10 first prizes winners?
Okay. In the one loft races, I have won the one loft races outright twice. I have got 38 times in the first 10, and in the country, when you race against the fanciers within the races against your own country, 18 times first prize in my country also.
Alistair, what food and what products you give your pigeon? Can you show us that one?
Yes, no problem. Okay, here we have 3 products here that I currently use. The first one I'd like to show you today is it's cod liver oil. It's obviously a fish extract, as you will know. This particular product is intended for horses. I found it to be very good, and I believe the pigeons actually benefit from that particular product. When I have the cod liver oil on the grain, I give a vitamin supplement in the form of brewer's yeast. This one here is from the natural breeding station, the Schumacher, and again with the cod liver oil, I believe it gives the pigeons potentially the products or vitamins that are maybe missing from the feeding that we give on a day-to-day basis. For recuperation and return from the race, and indeed when the weather is warm, or indeed the breeders are under challenge and they've maybe been rearing and breeding 1 or 2 rounds of pigeons, I like to give the glucose as well, as this obviously just tops up the glycogen level in their liver, and again it's on a vitamin base and I like it very much.
What food you used?
Do you want me to move this? Because what I'll do, okay, you asked about the feeding in actual fact that I use. There is primarily 3 different types of mixture that I use. The one I've got in my hand here is basically, it's a high protein mixture. It is used primarily for the breeders and indeed for the youngsters once they are weaned for approximately the first month. Okay, the mixture I have in my hands here is a very commercial, straightforward breeding mixture. It is used again for the breeding stock. The youngsters would maybe have this for maybe 1 week once they are weaned, and thereafter they would go on to the high protein mixture that I showed you previously. Okay. The third mixture I had in my hand I actually make up personally. This is what you would call maybe like a diet mixture, or it forms along the same lines as like a depurative mixture. I give this to the youngsters in the morning because I have found in actual fact that if you give the youngsters too much protein, sometimes they are susceptible to picking up bacteria type diseases from other pigeons when they are all mixed together. But when I give this mixture, because it has a lot of fibre in it, it seems to keep the internal stomach and indeed the intestines in good condition. Okay, the mixture I have in front of me here at the moment, in actual fact I make it up myself. It runs along the same line as a depurative stroke diet mixture. It's very high in fibre, and I give this to the youngsters especially in the morning each day. What I have found in actual fact is a good supplement mixture to the high protein mix that I give generally, which I will show you just shortly. And this in actual fact keeps the intestines and the stomach correct for the youngsters. The next mixture I have in front of me is a commercially sold breeding mixture. It is designed primarily for the breeding stock, and it has all various grains in actual fact that would aid for the good growth of youngsters. The third mixture I have in front of me, in actual fact, is a very high protein mixture. I feed this to the breeding stock and I run this in conjunction with the breeding mixture which you saw earlier. And this I use for the youngsters as well once they are separated, as I believe this will be the staple diet that generally will be fed to pigeons in the domestic programme and also for the one-off races. Okay, the pigeon I have in front of me here today for you to see is one of my top breeding hens, Angel. She comes from the stam mother of the loft, JZ. She is an exceptional breeder. She has bred pigeons to do very well in the domestic racing. The national racing also, and I am very happy to tell you today that she is the grandmother of first national in Bulgaria. Here you can see the wing of the pigeon, which is very synonymous to the family of pigeons I have. She is medium in size, very closing on the vent bones, and she has all the characteristics of a good breeding pigeon and also from the stam mother of the loft. Here we have the second pigeon I'd like to present to you today. This pigeon that I call ETS. The reason he was called ETS, as you can see, he still has his electronic ring on him. He was a very good racing pigeon, but in the breeding loft he has been exceptional. He is a full brother to the previous pigeon Angel, and he in turn, in actual fact, has bred very, very good pigeons also in the international races. His brother, West Tip, was first international. His half-sister is Anniversary Girl. She was second international in the Europa Classic race, and she in turn bred the first Open International prize in Germany. So as you can see, the pigeon is very typical again of the pigeons I have, and he is a full brother to the previous pigeon that I showed you, Angel, and again directly from the stam mother of the loft, Jay-Z. Okay, the third pigeon I have in my hand here at the moment is a half brother to the two previous pigeons. This pigeon is called Jaden, and again he is a direct son from the stam mother of the loft, Jay-Z. He is very typical of the pigeons, again you can see by the wing, it is very similar. This pigeon here is a very good breeder for the domestic racing. In actual fact, it's quite synonymous about this pigeon. I should really call him unlucky, because he has only but bred second prize winners when the pigeons have performed well from this cock. His brother, the previous pigeon ETS, has bred first prize winners, and obviously Angel is the grandmother to first national. So as you can see, with the baseline of these pigeons from the original Hofken/Janssen pigeons, you have all possibilities from the club, the federation, the national and the international racing. Okay, the fourth pigeon I would like to present to you today I call Blue Star. He in actual fact is the father of the first semi-final international race in the Kalamanchi in Bulgaria. What makes this pigeon special, in actual fact you can see by the ring and the makeup of the pigeon that he is not from the bloodline of my own. He is an imported pigeon. But as you can see, when I'm importing pigeons, not only must they succeed in the breeding loft, the brother to this pigeon was the first international first prize winner in the final event in the $1 million race. Okay, the fifth pigeon I'd like to show to you today comes from the fast blue line of my loft. It is another line that forms a similar baseline as the stam mother Jay-Z. Now this pigeon here, in actual fact, is what I would call the crossing material of my loft. The fast blue line with the Jay-Z line works exceptionally well in all types of racing. The brother of this cock is an exceptional breeder for Mr. Don Thompson in South Africa, in Cape Town, where he has bred several first prize winners from this line. Myself personally also, I have had very good pigeons. I've had the second ace pigeon in the overall averages in the $1 million in the UK section, and another brother to this one has bred, along with a half sister to this one, has bred the first ace pigeon in Mallorca for Jeffrey Cranston from Rainbow Lofts in Wales.
Alistair, you show us your best breeders. Can you show us best race pigeon?
Yes, I'd like to show you my best race pigeon today, but currently we're flying from the Inland National today. The birds were liberated at 10:35, and as you can see by the electronic timing system here at the moment, we have no arrivals at this moment in time, but we anticipate the arrival of the pigeons to be approximately 2 to 3 hours from now. Hopefully then, if the daylight allows and so forth, we have a top performance, and I can show you one of my top racers coming back from the National. Here we are in the trophy room, and you will see the most important international trophies. I don't have all the trophies out because they would fill this room. The image I'd like to show you here, in actual fact, is it's an artist impression of my stamp-mother of the loft, my world-producing hen Jay-Z. When you have a pigeon like this in your loft, it can change your whole outlook in pigeons for a lifetime.
So thank you very much for your time, for showing us you best breeders. Weather it's not very good today, so national race probably be hard, but we still wish you have first prize winner.
I hope so.
And we wish you a lot of success in the future for breeding and race pigeon, and also for winners for One Loved races.
Thank you very much.